Hi there. Welcome to day 2 of the 2021 virtual multifamily executive PropTech event. I'm Rob Britt, publisher for Multifamily Executive, and I'm thrilled to be talking tech with all of you here today. Just a reminder, as you listen to the sessions today, you'll have the opportunity to submit questions under the chat tab on the right-hand side of the screen. And we have a packed agenda of presentations, but we certainly want to be sure to interact with you all day. Please be sure to be active in chat and tell us what you think about content, ask questions, and interact with others. Also note that you can download valuable materials from sponsors if you click on their logo under the Sponsors tab. You can also access our attendee experience form under the Sponsor tab, and we'd love to get your feedback to ensure our events continue to provide value to the community. So I'd like to thank our sponsors for helping us bring today's great content to your screens, with a special thanks to our title sponsor, Appfolio. And now I'm thrilled to introduce the first session of the day. And this session is focused on the massive task of data management and is sponsored by Appfolio. Appfolio's property management software has everything you need to attract great residents this leasing season. And we have a short video to watch for them.
Appfolio's property management software has everything you need to attract great residents. New vacancies are automatically published online. Our AI leasing assistant responds quickly to inquiries and schedules showings. Agents can host virtual showings, coordinate self-guided tours, and approve applications from anywhere on their mobile device. Dashboards help you optimize performance on the fly. Free your teams to focus on what matters most. Appfolio. Everything you need, nothing you don't.
A big thanks again to Appfolio and all of our sponsors at this event. So without further delay, I want to welcome Claire Johnston, Managing Director for Lendlease's Google Real Estate Development Venture, which is a 15-year, $15 billion joint undertaking of master planning, entitlement, and development of Google's Bay Area land holdings in San Jose, Sunnyvale, and Mountain View. Lendlease estimates it will develop up to 15 million square feet of residential, retail, hospitality, and associated community uses within these 4 regions of California. So it's a real interesting perspective on the convergence of, literally the convergence of technology and real estate. So I'm really excited to welcome Claire and appreciate having her here today. So take it away, Claire.
Thank you. And I'm going to bring up my slide deck, and I will look for somebody in the chat to confirm with me that that has come up.
It is up.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody, and thank you for having me. It's a beautiful morning in Silicon Valley here, where I have been for the last 2 years. And I have been a real estate developer for 25 years, and I'm super excited about this topic because I continue to be staggered at just how far our industry has to come to bring us out of the prehistoric times and into the future. But for me, this is cause for hope, not despair, because I believe if we harness technology and what it can bring, it will be entirely possible for our industry to get where we need to go faster and then provide better outcomes for our customers. So today I'm going to tell you about how Lendlease is harnessing data and technology like we never have before. I see the slide is not moving. There we are. So it's relevant for us to consider the progress on the built environment through the lens of a pandemic. And if we look at many pandemics through centuries, each has had a significant impact on people. There have been catastrophic death levels. There have been lasting impacts on life. And if we look at the Black Death as an example, 75 million deaths. Quarantine was first introduced and other measures to help us get over these terrible events that are happening. And in response to these outbreaks, each century crafted a range of built world responses. The Romans divided water and sewer. In the Black Death, we saw the evolution of more space between buildings and the elimination of cramped and dirty neighborhoods, and so on. The evolution of the built environment and its impact on addressing pandemics has been focused on essentially removing dirtiness in our cities, in our communities, and our places. And until really the experience of SARS, the response that society has made has been intuitive, i.e. we've figured it out as we've gone along. We haven't had the benefit of experience or background or history or data to help us figure it out. And today, we've never had such a great ability to solve these problems using real-time, rich and diverse data sources, which is just as well because here we are again. And so before COVID, most people had never experienced suffering as a result of a pandemic. And now we all know what it's like. And rightly so, the world is demanding change, not just a quick fix, but legacy interventions that will make step change impacts to the way we live. And at Lend-Lease, we see 3 areas that data and technology and the built environment come together to make material step changes. Firstly, clean air. Why? The more dirty our air, the worse our respiratory systems become. COVID had an 8% upward death rate attributable to the inability to provide clean air. Secondly, safety at work. Why? Being close together spreads disease. And the same is true of residential experiences, retirement homes, public housing, all sorts of ways that we live. Employment. Why? The consequence of the time it's taken to work through this catastrophe has decimated many people's economic livelihood. The world literally stopped. And just think about the impact of that on emerging countries, construction and other industries. In multifamily in the United States, we virtually stopped. There's no pipeline coming through for supply chain partners. Factories have closed and people have no work. And then the ramp up to recovery from the impacts of COVID will be slow. So the so what of that is that the use of data and technology has accelerated in our industry in a far greater than it otherwise would have as a result of this current pandemic. And that's a really good thing. In our retirement centres and multifamily assets, for example, we have been able to, in real time, understand and respond to air quality, as an example, through our automated asset management systems. Another workplace example that applies equally to the residential environment is our ability to use existing information to scenario test return to work or moving back into accommodation facilities that minimise the spread of virus and think about design for safety. Examples for us have been artificial intelligence, temperature testing, and all of those things about how we re-enter our buildings in a safe way. We have been able also to work with our suppliers to understand the procurement impacts of their business and guarantee smooth return to work progress also as we move through this. So we have been using technology. The technology has existed and it's forced us to use it faster and in a more meaningful way. And at Lend-Lease, we operate businesses across the entire real estate chain. We do development, we do construction, and we do asset management. We do this in urban regeneration projects, we do it in multifamily assets, we do it in retirement living communities. And you can see that we're passionate about communities of all types. And to support our transformation efforts, Lend-Lease runs its own technology business called Podium, which is charged with bringing and using data and technology to help us deliver on our promise faster and more effectively. So we're 2 years into this journey. And as I said, COVID has accelerated our need for the products that will create and manage the built environment. Things like digital twin design, manufacturing methods in the production of housing, integrated supply chain solutions, real-time asset management systems are the things that are driving our thinking and our evolution. The real estate data ecosystem. Data is the new foundation of the built world. There is a richness of data, including structured and unstructured, enterprise, building, external information, and more. And data is growing at the speed with the expectation that there will be 149 zettabytes of data by 2024. And if anyone can give me a great definition of a zettabyte, that would be very good, because It's all I know is that there's millions of zeros that sit behind the one, and it's an enormous amount of data. So this data, however, sits in silos, and without integration or context means that we have been a long way from being able to collectively and collaboratively use this data to solve big issues. Issues like sustainability, safety, and value creation. Until now, that is. Lendlease is currently piloting the capture and value creation of data from 5 of our real estate assets in Australia. And during COVID, phase 1 collected over 600 million records of data. And we're bringing this together with data from our key external partners and integrating this into one platform, which we will call Podium Property Insights. With a rich range of data and contextual real-time parameters, including things like weather, time, seasonality, we are now automating decisions that relate to sustainability, safety, and value creation that also, of course, have long-term community benefits. What's important is that this equally applies to our residential assets, and we've just completed our first machine learning study on the experience of our residents and the residents of others in communities in multifamily assets. So we've been able to understand how people are thinking, feeling, and responding to their environment during COVID, and then understanding the impacts that that's having on our business and our residents. By harnessing the data in one platform, I and my teams have the ability now to review all the properties that we own and manage in one place, how the properties are performing in relation to key metrics, sustainability, operational excellence, customer experience, and we can adjust the property design and management of our activities to learn from similar properties in the portfolio and expand those learnings into new geographies and sectors and experiences. That is particularly relevant in the US for businesses like our Department of Defense portfolio, where we have 40,000 houses and 13,000 hotel beds on 27 installations across the US. It's a portfolio of scale, and in real time, we have the ability to learn from at each base, but then those bases aggregated to identify common needs and make changes for those residents and their experiences, as well as new assets that we develop. I can now deep dive into data in real time. My teams can use very user-friendly tools, and it comes from the common platform. For instance, we're looking at the energy consumption hour by hour and day to day at the moment to find key trends and consider for improvement adjustments. But the implications for this are bigger than just a single project level. There's a global footprint that us and other organisations have, which allow us to take localised data and understand what that means in a global footprint, or what those changes need to be that we can make that will help our overall portfolios work better and more efficiently, regardless of where they are in the world. It's my favourite slide of the morning, and many of you may know that the first episodes of The Jetsons was broadcast in September, 23rd of September in 1962. And today it stands as the single most important piece of 20th century futurism. From autonomous flying cars to autonomous homes, which were autonomously raised or lowered. You can see the houses move up and down depending on space weather conditions. Now, if you take the pole aside, the idea of homes adapting to the world around us is not new, but we have yet to see it in our world today. If we think about the car industry and the car automation, we would say that that industry is advanced in its evolution. The first semi-automated car was developed in 1977 by Japan's Tsukuba Mechanical Engineering Lab, which required specifically marked streets that were interpreted by 2 cameras on the vehicle and an analog computer. The vehicle reached speeds of up to 30 kilometres an hour. Trials across the globe have continued and included various levels of automated driving capability, smart road design, and more. In 2014, SAE International provided the standard for assessing the levels of autonomous. It enabled governments to relook at their policies and governance supporting autonomous cars. In February of this year, 2021, Germany announced policy changes which will enable the first level 4 autonomous cars to be launched in the world. So in such a short amount of time, that industry has made an enormous amount of progress. We believe in the vision of autonomous homes, and we believe that it can be achieved in our lifetimes. In 2021, Lend-Lease with others launched an industry definition for the application of autonomous into the building industry, from level 1 through to level 5 autonomy. By assessing buildings across this framework, we anticipate a broader industry discussion, including the inclusion of governments and policy standards. It's frustrating that we're further behind the car industry, but we now have the ability to get ourselves up the value chain faster. And things like COVID have really helped the acceleration push for us to get where we need to go. An example of where Lend-Lease is applying this system is what it's called our MIND project. It's an urban regeneration project in Milan, Italy. And we are applying the principles of autonomous building to the development activity there. It's a new innovation district in Milan. And it was an area of the city that was unused and sort of really left fallow after Expo. It's an integrated development site. It has an enormous number of housing. It has hospitals, health, public realm, schools. It really is a true mini city. We think, and our aspiration is that MIND will get to level 4 on that built form autonomous spectrum. The district is using digital technology to partially automate areas of the district. We're doing so to improve clean air and meet the ambitious sustainability targets that we have set ourselves to create a safer building site, safer buildings, and a safer precinct for the people who live, work, and play in this disused and relatively unsafe area of Milan today. The project is creating new jobs. Milan is home to the majority of the estimated 52,000 homeless people in Italy, which is 9% of that population, so it's significant. In Italy, more than 2 million people earn less than $5 a day. MIND is established in the outskirts of Milan and is really well accessible by public transport. There is a biomedical industry evolving there where job redistribution in the technology industry is a really big feature of being able to create a legacy outcome for that community. In the residential space, we're using Podium to do the feasibility and design work of all of our residential assets on that master plan. We've been able to accelerate that effort by 80% in terms of time saved, which means we can now start building a year earlier than expected. So for us, the MIND project is data at work, making material differences to those communities. Of course, we're one part of a big ecosystem, and to bring about the answers to the big questions that COVID and other disruptors bring and to create enduring change means we can't do these things on our own. We can't bring the big community demanded changes to the world alone, and collaboration and partnership is essential. So today, we partner not only with cities and governments and other stakeholders, but also with providers like Schindler Lifts, Stora Enso, Google Cloud, Homes Engineering, and more as a few examples. We're having some conversations around sanitizing lifts or elevators through the use of laser, AI temperature checking, heat sensing, and other technology for application in our apartment complexes, particularly and as a focus as we move through development. So the future is here, and it's taken COVID for us to realize how far behind we are and how fast we need to go to create better outcomes for everybody. We have tools available to us. We now know that we need to employ them in real time and quickly to bring about the lasting change to these big questions. For Lend-Lease, our ability to collect, gather, and apply data is clearly important for our business, but perhaps more importantly, invaluable to the communities which need cleaner, safer, and more sustainable places to be. That's what everybody wants. And our ability to realise this in collaboration is the game changer. So thank you for your time. That ends my presentation.
Thank you so much. We appreciate that, Claire. That's wonderful expertise. And I got a question here for you. and I encourage our audience to continue to submit in the chat. What's the biggest opportunity for gathering and leveraging data in multifamily, do you think?
Yeah. So it's obvious to this community that the ability to the leasing effort, bringing people into the communities, vacancies, managing occupancy is a really important part of an exploration at a portfolio level, I think, particularly if you're an organisation who has a diverse set of assets in many geographies, either domestically or internationally, the ability to understand where your residents are, where they're going to, is a really important and invaluable tool to the business. I think in terms of data for us, we're very interested in how buildings are performing, not only in terms of the operations, but in terms of the quality of experience. So the air quality conditions, the ability and access to book and use shared facilities, for example. Those are the types of things also that data is helping us to understand. And we want to be able to use that to allow buildings to make real-time changes to improve air quality, for example, residential experience, amenity availability, and all of those sorts of activities. So it can be used in lots of ways, both externally as a business tool, but then also in terms of the operation management of assets.
Thank you. I have a question, just given your perspective and kind of across the food chain of commercial real estate and your location, while the pandemic has pulled forward a lot of technology, over the past year and has really, catapulted our industry forward. There's also at the same time this shift in, if you look in the office market, the shift in work from home and being from Silicon Valley, there's the kind of the broader exodus that you hear in the news, to places like Austin and Miami. How has that changed the discussions that you have in your collaboration with the municipalities down in your way?
I think it's the globally interesting question, and what does return work to look like, and how will that manifest? And so we are interested in that for a couple of reasons. One, because it sort of goes to every part of master plan communities where you have commercial offices, and I think the sort of the ultimate response would be people will return to the office. They will do so in a more flexible way than they perhaps have before. And the configuration of office space will change to accommodate the way that new work environments will happen. And so if people are all in the office 3 days a week, all out of the office 2 days a week, for example, the configuration of that space will need to be quite different to what it might have been in the past. And so we're seeing a lot of discussion around that in our development sites across North America, around what the office configuration needs to be to accommodate increasing flexibility, and then also how the office itself needs to perform to support the health and well-being of employees, physically, but also in terms of service provision. So that's interesting. What I would also say is that the consequential effect for that, and the knock-on that I'm particularly interested in, what does that flexible work experience mean for the home? Because if we're going to be in a state of 1-2 days a week working from home permanently, what does that mean to people who live in multifamily apartments? Well, it means that what we should be doing is designing work areas which have access to natural light and fresh air, as opposed to putting workbenches in corridors or in cabinets or closets where there's some free space. And so it redefines the way you think about the multifamily asset as well, in order to make sure that when people are working from home, they have a good quality space to do that as well. So I think it's the office and the way people live working together.
Excellent, thank you. I got a question from Chris Corbin, and he wants to know about your Podium Property Insights. Is that a proprietary product, or is that something available?
It is. like most things, you experiment on yourself. That business is in its evolution, and there will come a time where we anticipate to bring that to market as a business activity. But we're piloting on ourselves at the moment.
How do you manage the quantity of data and the cost of analyzing and getting it to the right stakeholders?
That is a fascinating question, and I don't purport to be a technology expert or a data, someone who is focused a lot on data. I'm not. I am a willing learner in this new evolution. And one of the things that strikes me is that exactly that question, how do you get the right data? How do you filter it in the right way? And how do you get it to give you meaningful insights, which you can then communicate to your stakeholders, right? And so that is, again, a work in progress, because you want to make sure that what you're getting is accurate, real time, and meaningful. I'm not worried about the ability to collect the data and distill it, because for us, our partners are sort of very willing to collaborate in the gathering of the data. And we have significant teams of people who are sort of sorting through that and figuring out what that means and distilling it, not just with algorithms, but with actual people, which is very important as well. But then it's really about, how do we as the end user in the business take that and apply that to things that we're thinking? And there's a whole range of ways that can be done. I suppose the best example is, we're looking at how frequently people are moving in and out of apartments, and how elevators are either dealing with or not dealing with COVID restrictions, and sort of responding to that. So we can get data, but as you say, as the person who made the comments, it's a matter of understanding it, having quality people interpret it, and then give it a meaningful application to the business. So I'd say it's a work in progress.
Thank you. Let me see. How are you determining where and how you can share data? What risk is involved, and how do you mitigate that?
Yeah, it's a great question, and what I would say is that there's no privacy violation going on, and we're very mindful about what the rules are and what you can and can't say. That said, it's very much, especially when you're a beta consumer business, right? Particularly when you're managing multifamily assets, which Lendlease doesn't do at scale yet in the US. So we're very, very mindful of those things, and really the application of our data to date has been B2B through consumers, or through business partners or joint venture partners, where we've been taking data and using that, and we've been using it for internal consumption only, and as informational to inform decision making. So that, again, is another big question that has enormous externalities that the industry will have to face, and we will do that along with the industry. At this time, it's really, we're using that for internal information and trying to understand and make sense of what's coming from our existing assets.
Excellent. And one last question. You worked in your previous life with the Department of Defense. What's the comparison with what you're doing now?
It's the same in a different context. And so whether you're delivering master plan communities in Sydney or Atlanta or Silicon Valley or the Department of Defense, the tenets of development are the same, and the ambitions about creating great communities are the same. And so, the Department of Defense was about creating great communities for military service members and their families who are putting their lives at risk. It's just a different cohort which has a nuanced need, but the planning principles are still the same. The objectives of providing great, safe, sustainable places for communities translate, I think, universally. It's really that the application is distinct by the asset or the city or the environment that you're in. So, it's the same, but a little bit different.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Claire. We really appreciate this presentation. It was great to meet you. And yeah, we hope to cross paths again in person maybe next time.
That'd be great. Thank you for having me.
Okay, thank you. And just another reminder here. We have our next session is coming up in 15 minutes. We have a short break, and we're going to be doing our innovative prop tech pitches. So you just have to click on the session title and the agenda and join live session to get back in. This one's going to end and you'll have to join to get back in. And also another reminder, this event is part of a series of MFE events. And the next event is our annual conference in Las Vegas, September 13th to the 15th. So you can find out more details and register now at mfeconference.com. And we have a special Memorial Day offer going on. You use the code HONOR, HONOR, and you get $200 off your registration. So take advantage of that. So please come back and join us in 15 minutes for our innovative PropTech pitch session.